Good morning, Kuhner country. My friends, we now have a massive rupture developing right in front of our eyes, a diplomatic break, almost unprecedented. This is happening publicly, not just behind the scenes, between our closest ally in the Middle East, Israel, and the Trump administration. And what is making this very public break, there's no other way to put it, this war of words that has now broken out between Israel and the United States, in particular Bibi and President Trump, or Bibi's government and the Trump administration, is the fact that Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, the overwhelming majority of the Israeli public, the entire Israeli media, are going absolutely apoplectic in their opposition to Trump's deal that he just signed with the Iranian regime. They are calling it, their words, not mine, a betrayal, a sellout, that an abandonment of Israel. They say it puts the country now in an impossible no-win situation. They are furious with President Trump over this issue. Members of the cabinet now are openly attacking and smearing the president. Prime Minister Netanyahu, Bibi, is demanding an emergency meeting with Trump as soon as possible to change some of the terms of the agreement. The problem is, just from a legal point of view, it's a done deal. It's signed. Now, nothing is set in stone. They still have to negotiate for 60 more days, and there's going to be hopefully a peace deal at the end of this 60-day negotiation. But the memorandum of understanding is the framework, the basis for the talks. So it's going to be hard, in fact, impossible for Trump now to change these terms after they've been agreed to. Now, in particular, what is inflaming the Israelis, what is inflaming Bibi, what is inflaming the entire Israeli media and really the Israeli people, are two provisions. Number one, the provision that we signed on to, that we will not interfere in the internal affairs of Iran, that we will not seek to overthrow the regime, we will not give aid or assistance whatsoever to the pro-democracy movement, that we will respect the sovereignty of Iran, and that we recognize the current regime in Iran. And so for many Israelis, the point of the war was to instigate, spark regime change, overthrow the Ayatollahs, bring in a new era, a new government that is pro-Western, pro-American, pro-Israel, or at least pro-peace, pro-sanity. They believe that the fundamental principle of the war that they joined us in has now been violated, and that it leaves the mullahs in a stronger position now than in February 27th. They're opposed to all the money that is going to be given, some of it up front, much of it at the end when the negotiations are done and everything has been implemented. They believe that with all these hundreds of billions of dollars flowing into the coffers of the Iranian mullahs, that this will help them almost instantaneously rebuild economically, rebuild militarily, and also to be able to fund terrorist proxies all over the Middle East, and especially you have Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza. Israeli forces are actually fighting both as we speak. Islamic Jihad, the Houthis in Yemen. In other words, Iran can continue to be the greatest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. In particular, the one clause that the Israelis are especially angry about is the clause that says the ceasefire extends to not just the United States and Iran, but to all the parties in the region, all the allies in the region, In particular, Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah has essentially colonized Lebanon on behalf of Iran. Hezbollah is funded by Iran. It is aided by Iran. It is armed by Iran. It is controlled by Iran. It is a very powerful, lethal, merciless, murderous militia that have entrenched themselves, especially in southern Lebanon. That is their stronghold. Now going all the way up to southern Beirut. They have a stranglehold on Lebanese society, Lebanese politics, and on the Lebanese economy. They have now been relentlessly launching missiles and drones and bombs into northern Israel. Israel now is trying to knock Hezbollah out of Lebanon. And so they have launched a multiple pronged offensive to do so. The problem now is Trump has ordered both sides, but Israel in particular, to stand down, saying this now threatens the upcoming negotiations and a final peace deal between the United States and Iran. And so now the Israelis have been told, hold your fire. Do not launch a single bomb, a single strike, a single drone. Do not even fire a bullet at Hezbollah, or else the Iranians say they will consider this a violation of the ceasefire, the violation of the memorandum of understanding, and the deal is off. Israel now says this has put them in an absolute straitjacket, that they essentially now do not have the right to defend themselves, and that they believe they have now been betrayed by Trump and his negotiators at the diplomatic table with Iran. That this has now left Israel at the mercy of Hezbollah, their hands tied, and the inability for them to respond or retaliate should Hezbollah begin to launch missile, drone, and bombs into northern Israel. J.D. Vance did a press conference yesterday. As you know, he has now become the face of the Iran deal. President Trump has tasked him with defending it, going to as many media outlets as possible. So J.D. now is the man that has been assigned by Trump to defend the deal all the way, to defend it to the hilt from all critics, conservative critics, liberal critics, Republicans in Congress, Democrats in Congress, any media outlet. He has been told, do them all. It doesn't matter. Do them, and try to refute and rebut every charge or every criticism of the deal. Yesterday, J.D. took the podium because Caroline Levitt still, she was pregnant, had a baby, and slowly she'll be coming back. So they're still taking turns doing Caroline Levitt's job as press secretary until she is ready to fully come back. He held the press conference at the White House yesterday, and immediately he fired a shot across the bow at Netanyahu, at Israel, at the entire cabinet, telling the Israelis, you better knock off the public criticism and attacks, because we're the only friend you have, and we're the most powerful friend you have. Roll cut 10, Mike. Cut 10, 1-0.
Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in.
So basically, now this is, almost unprecedented to see such an open break between the current government in Israel and, of course, the current administration in the United States. And what Vance is basically telling them is, we send you weapons, we protect you, we give you billions of dollars in aid. We're asking you now to be a good, loyal junior partner. Okay, I want to ask all of you, the best audience in the business, what do you make now of this diplomatic break? Clearly now there is a lot of daylight, tension, in some cases now even anger, open anger between Israel and the United States, Bibi and Trump, over the Memorandum of Understanding. And this has never happened before. The way the Israeli cabinet has erupted, this is Bibi's coalition government, denouncing the deal as a sellout, saying Trump has betrayed the people of Israel. And by the way, Trump, at least was, up until this deal, immensely popular in Israel. In fact, polls show that he's more popular, or at least was, more popular in Israel than in any other country in the world, including obviously the United States. That the Israelis would elect him prime minister 1,000 times over. He had an approval rating in Israel. It was something, almost absurd. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, you just never hear of numbers like this. 93% approval rating. 93%. And I think that's what's shocked the collective conscience of the Israeli people, the Israeli media, the Israeli government. They are bewildered, shell-shocked, really, it's the only word, at the memorandum and some of the clauses in the memorandum. Now, to me, I think a central problem with the memorandum, and you know my criticisms of the memorandum, but I just want to focus on one thing. I don't know why Trump agreed. This was Iran's demand. The Iranians were insisting to rope in Lebanon into the deal, which of course then would affect Hezbollah and it affects Israel. To me, Lebanon has nothing to do with the war between us and Iran. At best, it's a sideshow. At best, it's a minor front in the war. At best. But the reason why Iran did this, and I have to say the negotiators were very smart, was, as they've said repeatedly, Lebanon is, quote, our lifeblood. This is straight from the regime. That with Lebanon, they have access all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. With Lebanon, they are a regional power through Hezbollah. That with Lebanon through Hezbollah, they can supply Hamas. They can put tremendous pressure on Israel. They can launch attacks on Israel right at its border at will. And so they wanted a deal that would cement and freeze the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. And the moment when Bibi would try to bomb Hezbollah's command and control center, for example, when they were right on the cusp of signing the deal, Trump publicly lashed out at Bibi Netanyahu, said he had no, I can't say the word, the F-bomb, he had no blanking judgment. He told reporters, he bragged, that he took Bibi to the woodshed behind closed doors, saying that his actions in Beirut, attacking Beirut and these Lebanese centers or command and control centers, were jeopardizing the larger peace agreement, the Memorandum of Understanding, between himself and the leaders of Iran. And so he ordered Netanyahu to stand down, which to Netanyahu and his government and the Israelis was a humiliating capitulation. In fact, now the Israeli media, quoting senior people in the government, say that they feel that their dependency upon the United States on military help, diplomatic help, geopolitical help is now hurting Israel. That's what the Israelis are saying. And that they're now paying a price for being essentially subservient to the United States, and that now they believe this is starting to jeopardize or threaten Israel's long-term national interests. And so Bibi has now come out and said he has a plan to wean Israel off of all American foreign aid so that within 7 to 10 years, Israel will not be receiving a dime of American taxpayer money, and that they will be able to stand completely alone, so they will have full independence and freedom of action when it comes to dealing with their neighbors and with terrorist proxies and even with the Iranian regime itself. So what you're watching now is, it's still early, but it's almost like the gradual decoupling of Israel and the United States. Now, I'm not saying this breach can't be repaired. Of course it can. I'm not saying there aren't very strong bonds between Israel and the United States. Of course there are. But now you're starting to see real separation, daylight, open frustration and anger between the two sides over this deal. I want you to listen now to J.D. Vance. One of the central disagreements is that J.D. and President Trump say we can make the mullahs in Iran a reliable regional partner of the United States. That by giving them enough economic incentives, all of the reconstruction money, the access to the $120 billion in frozen assets, lifting the sanctions, allowing them to sell oil, that ultimately the Iranian regime will choose economic progress over terrorism and Islamic revolution. And that Israel's solution, where they will assassinate dangerous Islamic leaders or dangerous Islamic dictators or key people in the IRGC or key people in the Iranian regime, Trump and Vance together now have said, we don't believe this is viable in the long run. We believe that we have to make Iran a regional stakeholder, and we have to take them out of the Middle Ages and bring them into the 21st century. And that Iran now is a power that must be reckoned with, and that what we must forge a long-term strategic relationship. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, what do you make now of this growing fracturing between the relationship Israel and the United States? Who do you side with? I'm just curious. And do you think that this relationship can still be repaired? Or do you think both countries now, slowly but surely, are starting to go their separate ways? 617-266-6868. Who do you think is right now in this diplomatic row between the two countries over the Memorandum of Understanding? Listen now to J.D. Vance. He was on a podcast with New York Times columnist Ross Douthat. And he said, look, I got a message for Israel. I know you've been relying on Mossad for decades to assassinate, take out terrorists, terrorist leaders, Islamic leaders and dictators, people in the IRGC, people in the Iranian leadership. Those days are now over. You can't assassinate your way to victory. Roll cut 11, Mike.
I will say, I don't know, maybe I've missed this. I don't think Bibi himself has actually criticized the deal, because I think he's maybe a little bit more familiar with the details of what's in it. But yeah, you've seen people in their system, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who've attacked the deal. And I guess my response to them would be, what is your exact proposal? And, you know, you're a country of 9 million people.
You can't just kill your way out of solving every single national security problem that you have. Look at what we've accomplished.
So basically, JD is making Trump's argument, which is, look, we've smashed Iran. We shattered their nuclear program. We have set it back a generation easy. We have completely decapitated the political leadership. The supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, is dead. He's now been succeeded by his son, the gay, disfigured son, who's basically a puppet of the IRGC. Their military has been degraded, destroyed, parts of it utterly wiped out. The Iranian economy, as of now, is in tatters. We won the war. And now the question is, who's going to win the peace? And Trump says the way to win the peace is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz permanently, hopefully, and nuclear weapons. Make sure that Iran never has a path to the bomb. And he says this is going to be worked out over the next 60 days. So JD is saying, look, take the win. They're not going to get nukes. That's what Bibi was afraid of. That's what most Israelis were afraid of. They're not going to get nukes in the short term, and we're going to make sure they don't get nukes in the long term. Israel's counter-argument is very simple. You're going to give them hundreds of billions of dollars. We are undermining our very victory and repairing all the damage that we've done to the Iranians because we're going to flood them with money so they can rebuild everything within a matter of years. And no matter what they put on paper, the mullahs are the mullahs are the mullahs. They will never change who and what they are. A leopard doesn't change its spots. And so what we're actually doing is giving them the money to eventually purchase a nuclear bomb. And then all hell is going to break loose. And on top of that, they're saying, look, we've got Hezbollah right there in southern Lebanon, constantly firing rockets and bombs, killing Israeli civilians, and you're telling us we can't fire back? So now all of a sudden, Israel's proxy is not just entrenched in Lebanon for the foreseeable future, but basically we've lost the right to self-defense, or at least for as long as the negotiations go on? What self-respecting country would accept this? And so here is where we are. 617-266-6868 is the number. I predicted this from the beginning, if you remember. I said one of the problems, although when they worked together, it was incredibly lethal, extremely effective. The 13,000 strikes, the targets that were hit, the efficiency of the bombing, the brilliant strike early in the war where they just took out the Ayatollah and the prime minister, the interior minister, the heads of the IRGC. That was obviously a Mossad. They had penetrated Iran. They had given us invaluable intelligence. That was a massive blow to the hardliners and to the regime in Iran. So there's no question that together, these are the two greatest air forces in the world. It was a spectacular military operation, but they both had different objectives. Bibi's objectives, Israel's objectives, and America's objectives, and that's fine. I mean, countries have different objectives. That's just how it is. Certain countries' interests are slightly different than other countries' interests. And what we wanted, what Trump wanted, more than even regime change, was he wants a stable, functioning Iran because he wants the oil to continue to be pumped out. He doesn't want to see Iran broken into 1,000 pieces and there being chaos, anarchy, a potential civil war. Why? Because then all that oil that is supposed to be flowing to international markets is now, it's gone. It's not functioning. It's dead. And that's going to drive up the price of global oil. It's going to rattle oil energy markets, and it may even tip the world into a global depression. As he said yesterday, I was under tremendous pressure to sign the deal. Economic pressure. I don't want to be the next Herbert Hoover. And the longer we waited, the longer the war went on, as Trump said, candidly, startlingly to some, but still, he said it, where he said this was going to lead to a global recession, maybe even a depression. And we're not immune from this in the United States. So whether we like it or not, they control the Strait of Hormuz. They have their boot on the neck, the artery of the world economy. And I had to make a deal. And that deal means putting a lot of money on the table. You look at Israel, their national interest is, A, regime change, and by any means, because this is the regime that poses the existential threat to the Jewish state. This is the regime that says, we get a nuke, we're going to drop it on Israel, period, and it's going to be over. And then we begin the end of days. So for as far as they're concerned, anything short of a regime change is a failure in the war. That's number one. Number two, they want chaos in Iran. And I'm not saying this in a critical way. From their point of view, what do we care about a stable Iran? Hey, if our enemies are slaughtering themselves, and you've got different factions armed and killing each other, and there's a civil war, and Iran breaks down, and that's great for us, because that means we don't have to deal with them. They're destroying themselves. So the problem embedded from the beginning was that our interests and Israel's interests, although aligned for a while, ultimately were different. And now that's come to fruition. Trump is now saying, enough, I'm cutting my losses. We're going to go through with a peace deal. We're going to change the Middle East. He believes we can transform Iran and turn them into a regional ally even, but certainly a potential force for peace and security. Israel believes, according to them, that the mullahs pose for them the ultimate threat and that they will never change, and that they're just playing the West, playing Trump, playing America to make as many concessions as possible, to line their pockets with hundreds of billions of dollars. They talk peace from one side of their mouth, while on the other side, they will rebuild, and then they will be back stronger than ever. And where the Israelis are adamant is that they believe this deal essentially begins to undo the victory of the war, because it gives Iran now the means to rebuild their entire economy, their entire industrial base, their entire missile program, their entire drone program, and potentially have enough money to purchase a nuke or a bomb or several nukes and bombs, and the big one, to fund terrorist proxies like Hezbollah with billions of dollars in weapons and aid. And Israel, according to this agreement, can't hit Hezbollah because that would be a violation of the ceasefire. Bibi and Trump are now at loggerheads. What say you? Who do you side with? 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me just say one final thing, exclamation point, and obviously I want to go to the blazing phone lines. The notion, and you saw this in the build-up and especially after the beginning of the war between, Operation Epic Fury, that Bibi Netanyahu is pulling Trump by the nose, that the United States under Trump is being run by Israel. And this is the argument, for example, Tucker Carlson's been making and others, that we're just, that the tail is wagging the dog, that we're under the control of the Israel lobby, we're under the control of Bibi, that the Israelis wanted this war, the Israelis pushed Trump into this war, that they were calling all the shots. You can clearly see now that that narrative has been utterly disproven. I'm not saying they didn't have an influence. They did. I'm not saying Bibi didn't encourage Trump to attack. He did. I'm not saying that there wasn't a bit of an influence or pressure campaign, because of course there was. But there's been other people who were involved as well. Lindsey Graham, General Keane, a columnist for the Washington Post, Mark Thiessen. There were many others who were instrumental in convincing Trump to go to war. But the notion that we do everything at the behest of Israel and that we're completely controlled by Israel, you can clearly see now is not true. It's just not. Netanyahu is furious. The Israeli government is furious. The Israeli media is furious. Many pro-Israel lawmakers are very angry at Trump for this agreement, both Republicans and Democrats. The one thing about the memorandum of understanding is Trump is now getting blasted from both sides. The hawks, the Republican hawks, and the Democrat peaceniks. It doesn't matter. Both Democrats and Republicans in Congress are laying into Trump over this deal. And pro-Israel supporters in particular are really laying into this deal. So this notion that President Trump is somehow a poodle of Benjamin Netanyahu, you ask Bibi now, and I'll tell you, he's the one that's privately saying, we're a poodle of the United States. So what I'm just saying is, wherever you stand on the issue, this notion that Israel runs America and Israel runs Trump, just ask the Israelis now. On the most fundamental, important question, the survival and the existential threat posed by Iran to Israel, the door is being shut in their face by President Trump. Now, whether it's right or wrong, that's a different issue. But what I'm saying is, Trump is telling them what to do. They're not telling Trump what to do. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, Jeff. Let me just run something by you, a question first. Look at the partners in this deal. You have Iran, you have their partner Pakistan, and Qatar. Do you trust any of them? Do you trust any of them in this deal to keep the deal? What is their ultimate goal? Their ultimate goal is to conquer the West. And they've been doing that. And one of the things that is odd about this war as opposed to others is that we didn't have any help from our allies. Why? Because they have all been, our allies have all been taken over by the Red-Green Alliance in Europe. And it results in, and I hope you get to this next week. I don't expect you to talk about it today, but I hope you get to it next week. What it results in a country, especially like Britain, which really did back down and didn't help us at all in this war, is you end up with the grooming gang situation where any kind of anything Islamic is, any criticism of Islam is taboo in Britain, and they cover up for the Pakistani grooming gangs. I hope you get to that next week, because the Rupert Lowe thing is really, really big, and that's what they want to have come to the West. The ultimate goal is the caliphate taking over the West. And that's what all these countries want to do, especially Qatar, who is really, they've been blaming Israel, but Qatar has been sneaking its influence in all over the place. I was looking up, right while I was waiting, I was looking up Lebanon before Hezbollah. You know, it's called the Paris of the Middle East, or the Switzerland of the Middle East. It was a beautiful, wonderful country, lots of Christians in Lebanon. And then, I don't know if you've ever heard her or not, but Bridget Gabriel could probably tell you a lot about what Lebanon was like and what the Muslims and Hezbollah and the radical Islamists did to Lebanon. They have taken over. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that this radical group has taken over a country like Lebanon. It's always Israel that gets the blame. I was reading an article yesterday about Hamas. Hamas now is killing off its opposition. It's beating them up. It's sexually abusing them, and it's killing off any kind of opposition, Palestinian opposition. It's not the Israelis that are killing them off. It's Hamas. Basically, Iran wants to consolidate its power, get its power back, have the money to back it up again, and just come right back again. And Donald Trump was talking about Herbert Hoover. It sounds like he's more like Woodrow Wilson with his 14 points, and it basically kicks the can down the road to the ultimate clash that we're going to have, what kind of culture we're going to have in the West, and what we're going to be doing about radical Islam in the West, because it's their ultimate goal of Iran and all those countries is to spread the caliphate all over the world. And JD, I don't think JD, and he sounds more like JD Tucker now than he does like JD Vance, because he sounds like he's the one who's the puppet of Tucker, because he has no sense of history. No sense of history. You see this. There's a sense of history about Iran. They go back on every deal. They're allowed to lie to infidels.
Look,
of course they are.
I agree with you. Look, it's called taqiyya, which means you can lie. You can lie to the infidel. Look, to be fair, this is the position that JD and Trump are at now. I'm just going to lay it out, and people can agree or disagree. They believe that they've implemented, in a sense, a form of regime change. How? Why? Because they've knocked out the supreme leader. They knocked out many of the top-tier leadership in the IRGC and the political leadership. As they put it now, we're down to the third level. And they believe that these people are more their apparatchiks, they're more bureaucrats, they believe, more pragmatic, more moderate, maybe even more slightly Western-oriented, or at least pro-economic progress-oriented. That's what they're saying. And so they believe that if you put enough incentives on the table, if you direct them towards the possibilities of economic progress, rebuilding their country, reintegrating themselves into the region and into the world economy, that a new Iran will emerge. Trump is now convinced of it. JD is convinced of it. And that's why they're telling Israel, give us a chance. Give us 60 days, and let's see what we can deliver. Now, the Israelis are in your camp. The Israelis are saying, yeah, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. They may be third tier, but their aspirations, their motivations, their crazy, insane Shia theology is the same. They want revolution. They want jihad. They don't want peace and economic progress. Pahlavi, the son of the Shah, yes. The king, yes. The exile king, yes. And Israel has said repeatedly, we'd be happy with a constitutional monarchy. Iran gets a constitutional monarchy, we don't care. Iran can do whatever it wants. In fact, we wish them all the peace and prosperity in the world, because they won't be a threat to us or to the region. But as long as these Islamo-fascists are in power, their argument is you cannot reform or change them. And they're convinced that they're lying. And the reason why they're so alarmist about it, or so frightened or angry about it, is they're saying, look what several $1 billion, the damage that they were able to do when Obama gave them those pallets of cash. They're going to get, there's different figures floating around, but they're going to get billions of dollars up front because Trump has agreed to waive the oil sanctions. So they're going to start selling oil immediately, and they're going to sell unlimited amounts of oil. So they're going to get billions just off of the oil sales. Now, they've also been told that they're going to get access to a chunk of the $120 billion in frozen assets. Iran is claiming $24 billion. Trump and JD are saying, I think it's more like $12 billion. Whatever it is, 12 to 24 billion. The Israelis are saying, do you know how many nuclear bombs you can buy with that? how many missiles, how many drones, how many weapons, how this is going to inject Hamas and Hezbollah and their terrorist proxies. So their argument is what we're doing is we are snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. That everything we destroyed, they're basically going to be able to rebuild within a year or two. And if you go all the way with the $300 billion reconstruction fund and you give them back all of the unfrozen assets, which is what's going to happen if they go through the full 60 days and Iran agrees on the enrichment and the uranium and their ability, never to develop a bomb, he says, the Israelis say, well, now you're looking at $400-500 billion. Now you've created a regional power. And they believe they don't even need to have capacity to build a nuke. They'll just buy a nuke. Pakistan will be happy to sell it to them. So the Israelis now are absolutely petrified that this war has put them in a deeper hole than actually when the war began in February 27th. And so, but Trump and JD believe that the war may have transformed the leadership of Iran to now go in a different direction. One of economic progress, development, peace with its neighbors, integrated now into the region and into the world. Personally, you want my honest opinion, I look at the mullahs, I see the same mullahs. I wouldn't give them a penny. Never mind 2 billion, 12 billion, 24 billion, and my God, certainly not $300-400 billion. You are begging for trouble, and you're going to get trouble. They are interested in revolution and in terrorism. That's been the basis of the regime since 1979, and I see no evidence that they've changed. Now, I don't know. Maybe JD and Trump are dealing with people behind the scenes I'm not aware of, or we're not aware of. I don't know. But I can only go by what I see. And what I see in Iran. I encourage everybody, look at Iranian media, because a lot of it is translated into English. They're openly saying, we won the war. And I mean, you're saying, well, Jeff, that's propaganda. No, they mean it. They're listing clause after clause after clause after clause. In fact, let me tell you what they're saying. They're saying, we attack Saudi Arabia, we attack Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, all of our neighboring Sunni Persian Gulf states. We attacked Israel, we attacked Lebanon, and of course we fought the United States. They're saying we defeated 10 countries. Quote, the Persian Empire is back. That's the new slogan now from the regime. The very people that Vance and Trump have been discussing. This is the Speaker of the Parliament. This is the Foreign Minister. This is the President of Iran on Iranian television being interviewed. And quote, the Persian Empire is back. We have won this war. And the Americans now dance to our tune because they say we control the Strait of Hormuz. And they're openly saying we can shut down the global economy anytime we want. And the West will cave. We'll take casualties, yes. We'll take a lot of economic pain because they'll probably put a blockade on again, yes. But we're tougher than the West. We can wait them out. They can't wait us out. Persia is back. And so what the Iranian pro-democracy movement is saying is that they feel abandoned and that the prestige and authority of the regime is now soaring within Iran and frankly across the region. And they're baffled and they don't understand. They keep saying this over and over again. Why didn't America and Israel finish the job? Now, Trump gave his reasons. I understand the midterms, and he just feared our economy would just tank. that the global economy would tank because of the Strait of Hormuz, that gas prices, oil prices, the energy instability, that in the end he couldn't afford a global depression. He'd end up like Herbert Hoover. So basically saying I had no choice. And I'll give you the quote again. In 2020, Trump's not a stupid man. He's a worldly man. He's traveled a lot. He said Iran has never won a war, and they have never lost a negotiation. Meaning they hang on and hang on and hang on, and they extract every single concession. They milk everything to the max. And they said they kept upping the price and upping the price and upping the price. It's now $300 billion. Now, I get it. It's not our money. Zero tax. I mean, JD again made that point yesterday. True. Yeah, it's true. It's going to mostly come from the Persian Gulf states. But to me, I don't want them to get the money. I don't care where it comes from. To me, the issue is the money, not whether it's our money or not our money. So, and the Israelis are pissed. I mean, they're really pissed. I've never seen them this pissed. And look, Lebanon is a lesson for all of us. This is what the Muslims want to do. Lebanon was a Christian country. In fact, it was created for Christian Arabs. And because it was created by Christian Arabs, it was turned into the Paris of the Mediterranean. Lebanon was known, by the way, amazing food, culture, nightlife, cafes, discotheques, lawyers, doctors, engineers, highly educated. Lebanese Christians are some of the most sophisticated, cultured people. They're like the Parisians. You know, I mean, they're a cultured, civilized, sophisticated people. And then the Muslims came in particular the Shia, and their paramilitaries and their militias, Hezbollah being the top one, backed by Iran. Now Lebanon's a hellhole. It's basically been in a civil war for 45 years. And the Christians are slowly being cleansed from Lebanon. They're being driven out of their own country. And look, this is what we have to face. And I know, look, I'm sorry, it's Friday. I know it's June 19th. I don't take Juneteenth off, but let that go. People are excited about a 3-day weekend and a nice 3-day, summer weekend. But, in a way, and I don't want Iran to get the bomb. Ever. Ever, ever. Please don't misunderstand me. But in a way, it's almost like the genie now is out of the bottle. And I hate to say this. You look at England, as you were talking about, Lou. Look at France. They're going to be Muslim majority countries in 15 years. In 15 years, which goes by very quick. By 2040, 2041, England is no longer a Christian or non-Muslim country. It will be a Muslim majority country. France, a Muslim majority country. The Muslims are going to get the bomb. They're going to have England's nukes. They're going to get France's nukes. So in a way, the genie's out of the bottle. That's why, to me, what we have to do now, while we still have time, and that's why I'm backing the Reform Party in Britain all the way, Nigel Farage, is the salvation of Britain. He's the Trump of Britain. And I back Le Pen, and now it's this guy called Bardella, who's basically her heir. But, I back the French conservatives. They're like, it's now or never. If we don't cut off these open borders, and we don't cut off this unlimited Muslim migration, we're done. We're cooked. Our culture is cooked. Our civilization is cooked. But the Muslims will come to power, and then they will have control over France or Britain's nuclear weapons. So, to me, I'm sorry, But the idea of giving hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars to these lunatics in Tehran is to me insane. I mean, I'm sorry. I know people are angry. They yell, they scream, they insult me, but I'm sorry. I don't see the logic behind that, especially if I'm being told that we won the war. Well, if we won the war, why are we losing the peace? Well, we need a deal. But why do we need a deal? I keep saying this over and over again. Nobody seems to answer me. Their nuclear program is in tatters. So I don't need a piece of paper to prevent them from getting the bomb. We physically, militarily have prevented them from getting the bomb. Well, we'll have to bomb them in 10 years. Then bomb them in 10 years. But a piece of paper from them, they never keep their word anyway, is not worth transferring all of that money to them. That's like giving a serial killer an AR-15. Okay, it's Bibi versus Trump. Israel now deeply disappointed in the memorandum of understanding. Trump, through J.D. Vance, is angry with Israel, saying they're being ungrateful. They shouldn't criticize the deal, certainly not in public. That we're their strongest ally, their biggest backer, and we want them to be a team player when it comes to this memorandum and this peace deal. And so both sides now are not happy with the other. Which side are you on, if any? And are we starting to see maybe the breakup in the relationship between the United States and Israel? Is Israel now going to completely go its own way? 617-266-6868. George in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. I'm on the side of Bibi on this issue, and I can't imagine this has turned out into the worst nightmare of a. I couldn't have imagined that it would have turned in this direction. I mean, we just basically legitimized an enemy that's going to haunt us. It's similar. I would put it, as an amateur historian or someone who follows the news and reads a little on the news. I mean, it's like we just basically did the exact same thing with China, and nothing's been. By giving them money, we're legitimizing them, and they're just going to become more powerful. And as you said, I mean, they probably will, buy from Pakistan a nuke. They don't need to make one now. They have money. And I was for the war or for the conflict in terms of resolving this issue. It'd be nice that this issue could have been resolved, in a relatively shorter period, but I didn't put any time restriction on it. And I think that this election thing is really muddying the water in terms of, the politicians' lens on everything. What I hope is, I guess what I'm trying to say is the only compromise that I've seen from the Muslim world and it's come from Saudi Arabia with the new prince is that I guess it's new now in Saudi Arabia that they were considering, or they may have allowed this, but allowed women to drive. So that's the only thing that I've ever seen them really compromise on, which is insane to me, being a Westerner. But I'm just really disappointed, just in general. I mean, I was really hoping that, like you said, just pull away, just pull out of this entire scenario and don't give them any money. And I don't really know much more to say than that. I mean, we buried the slave issue, when the founding fathers were, when they were setting up the Constitution, and then of the 32 million people that lived in the country in 1860, 600,000 died over a 4-year war and devastated the South. And it took, 40 or 50 years for the South to even, come out of the war. I mean, it wasn't until really World War II the South has actually become a meaningful space, or a profitable area for businesses to go. I mean, it's just insane what he's created, an absolute disaster. It's worse than COVID. It's worse than putting China in the WTO, in my opinion. I'm just dissatisfied, just in general.
Chris, I hear you, and you're saying you were a big supporter of the war initially. Chris, let me ask you this, because I want to always be fair to President Trump. The president said, look, I hear you, Chris. I wanted to deny them the bomb. I've denied them the bomb. Now, it may not be permanent, fine, but what in life really is permanent? So I've set them back a long way and a long time in ever getting a bomb again. I've smashed their military to pieces, and I have a choice to make. We can continue, and my fear is that the global economy would collapse because of these soaring energy prices and gas, and eventually we'd have a severe recession in America. We just would, and my presidency is over. As he put it, I'm Herbert Hoover, and Hoover got politically destroyed. In fact, it took the Republicans 20 years to come back to the White House after Hoover was defeated by FDR. And so he's saying, look, I hear you, Chris, but have you seen these communists that are running now for the Democratic Party? They win back the House. They win back the Senate. It's not a question of just a crude political calculation. They will impeach. They will convict. They will bring me, my presidency, and this country down. So I had a choice to make. Cut my losses now, or keep bombing, keep fighting, and risk a Democrat, really a communist takeover of the United States. So in Trump's view, I took the more prudent path. And as he said yesterday, he said, listen, I don't like the insults. I don't think he's doing himself a favor when he says people who supported the war and now are unhappy are fools and stupid. I wouldn't say that if I were him. You don't need to insult to make your point. He said, essentially, the stock market now has smashed all records since this deal, and gas prices are dropping like a stone. We're going to have the economy at our back when we go into the midterms. And if I need to bomb again, I can bomb again. In other words, I'm not saying we'll never bomb again. So with the midterms behind us, if the Iranians are still, pussyfooting around and jerking us around, I will bomb them again. What say you?
I hear what you're saying, but the issue that, there's no reason to be giving them money. That's the issue for me, because you're basically empowering a company that was defeated. It's like what we did with China.
Oh, I agree. Diane in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Diane, and welcome.
Thank you. I like the way you explained it to George in the last call. I agree 100%. I do support Trump. I just want to preface that with he's surrounded by people who give him the wrong advice. They want him to fail. Whatever he does, there's criticism. His main objective was, for the nuclear weapon. But he also wants to minimize civilian casualties. What do people wanted him to do? Do like Japan, the bombs in Japan and end it all? And I understand the possibility, the worst case area, they're going to use the money. And just as a little aside or a question is my understanding it's the release of the assets. It's not a direct payout. And then I also was wondering if they're going to be monitoring this. And another point is it's just an agreement. It's a first step. There's still room for negotiations. We can do a separate thing with Israel. It's all part of the process. And anyway, I'm just let's just see how it plays out. But people,
no, I understand. No, Diane, look. First of all, you're right on many points. Number one, Trump is a very humane man. And I even said this, if you remember, during the war. And look, I'll take responsibility for it. I said, please don't bomb the electric grid, the desalination plants, the power plants, because you don't want to do that to the poor Iranian people. We're not barbarians. They're not going to have drinking water. There's going to be sewage everywhere. They're not going to be able to go to the bathroom. There's going to be no electric power. They won't be able to live. They won't be able to work. They won't be able to eat. You're going to see mass starvation. Now, many people around him urged him to do that. And they said, you really want to bring the mullahs to their knees? That's how you bring them to their knees. And Trump said, I'm not going to do that to the Iranian people. A, because most of them are on our side. They're victims of this brutal, savage fascist regime, Islamo-fascist regime. So, they've got water, they've got food, they have functioning toilets, they have emergency backup power. So in the end, it's going to be the people that are going to really suffer and not the leaders. And so he did the right thing. He did the humane thing. He's a civilized man. So he did, so I'm proud that he didn't do that. So you're completely right on that. That's number one. Number two, it is a 60-day negotiation. You're right. And that's another argument Trump and JD are making, saying, look, let's just give this 60 days. Let's see what they agree to, what they don't agree to. Diane, I think if you're sensing, well, why this staunch, ferocious opposition to the deal, I can just speak for myself. I don't like them getting the money. It's the money that bothers me. I don't mind the negotiations. I don't mind, trying to work out something with the Iranian mullahs without killing more people. That's fine. To me, what I don't like, and it's two things, the waiver on the sanctions. Right now, they are sanctioned. They can sell just a little bit of oil. Okay, they're limited. This allows them to sell as much oil as they want, actually starting yesterday. No, 2 days ago, Wednesday. So they're already selling. So that's immediate cash and a lot of cash because there's a massive demand for oil. So they're going to get billions of dollars very quick. And then they are going to have access to at least a chunk of the frozen assets. A lot of that, by the way, is cash. Some of it are buildings, property, which they have to sell, but a lot of it is cash. So they're going to get an infusion of a minimum 12 to 20 billion dollars within about the next 4 or 5 days. Now, we went crazy, rightly, when Obama gave them 1.8 billion in cash on pallets. Now, this isn't on a pallet. It's, a wire transfer or a check, but it's still money in their bank accounts. I don't want to give them that kind of money because these are diabolical people. God knows what they're going to do with the money. I think they're going to fund terrorism. I think it's going to kill more innocent people. I think it's going to be used eventually against us. I think it's going to rebuild their drones and their missiles and their military, which we worked so hard to destroy and degrade. And my big fear, this is the worst case nightmare scenario, to may even go out and buy a bomb. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I don't want to give them billions of dollars. That's my issue with the deal, to which then I would have said to the president, look, Mr. President, and I don't understand why they never did this. You can hold your head high. You won the war, man. You beat them. And you destroyed their nuclear program. It's done. For at least a generation. Okay, now the Strait of Hormuz, no problem. Either we forcibly reopen it, or we tell Europe and Asia, guys, this is your problem. We don't get our oil from the Strait. You do. So France, you have a navy. Britain, you have a navy. China, you have a navy. India, you have a navy. South Korea. These are all big countries with, big navies, big militaries. Guys, go in there and clean it up. Get your oil, man. But he wants something on paper because he wants to pin them down. So they're never able to have enrichment. They're never able, the enriched uranium stockpile. He wants to physically either remove it or destroy it. And so that gives mullahs the power because he needs and wants something from them. And that's where they excel at. Then they extract and extract and extract concession after concession. And so my point is, we've given them too much for the privilege of negotiating with them. I would have just said, okay, no deal. Bye. Bye. And leave our Navy there if we have to reimpose a blockade or resume bombing or whatever, and tell the mullahs, if I were you, I'd be very careful. So he's going for the gold when honestly, I think when you win a war, you don't need a treaty to end it. Sometimes the treaty is worse than just walking away. Anyway, that's just my position. You can agree or disagree. Diane, final word to you.
It is a conundrum, but I'm hoping. Do you think the money will be monitored? Is there a thing?
Well, the money will definitely be monitored. There's no question. Vance has said it. Trump has said it. I mean, Trump's not a stupid man. He's not just going to say, here, guys, set up unfreeze assets and, they spend it how they spend it. The thing is, how do I say this? They were monitored under the JCPOA, the Obama agreement. And man, they were able to funnel that money. They build up shell companies. Like, they're very good. They're very cunning. They're clandestine. They work in the shadows. They use multiple partners. They use shell companies. So what I'm saying is, yes, it will be monitored. There's no question. But these are the mullahs. I mean, they've survived for 47 years. They know how to launder and siphon money. So my fear is we're going to lose track of at least some of the money. So look, every deal has a compromise. That's just the nature of a deal. And a deal is in the eye of the beholder. Some people feel the compromise is worth it to what you're potentially going to get. And others people feel, you give too much. I'm in the camp too much. But I would vote for President Trump again in a heartbeat. I love the man. I'm going to fight for him in November like I've never fought for anybody. I think on practically every other issue, he has been brilliant and he has done amazing for the country. I look at that world and I have to just say what my wife said. I see a den of vipers. It's the Middle East. It's not America. It's not even Asia. It's a different world. And these mullahs have such a primitive, backward, medieval mentality. J.D. Vance, I feel so sorry for him because honestly, everything he says is true. Oh my God, the economic progress, the hotels, the economic development, the factories, the skyscrapers, the schools, the buildings, the hospitals, the roads. He's saying, my God, Iran could be a 21st century gem with all the oil and resources they have. Yeah, you're right. You're a civilized Western man. You're dealing with these 7th century barbarians. Okay, I want to ask you, there is now a rupture in Israeli-American relations. Bibi Netanyahu, Donald Trump are now clearly at loggerheads over the memorandum of understanding. Privately, Bibi is fuming. He has asked for an emergency meeting with the president. Trump says he doesn't want to speak to him, at least for now. Bibi says that he believes that this deal is a betrayal. Those are his words. His cabinet, one after another, and what I mean is cabinet, his foreign minister, his defense minister, his interior minister, his chief of staff, I mean, literally everybody around him has come out not just denouncing the deal, but saying it is an absolute sellout, that according to them, Israel has been betrayed, that they are now unable to even defend themselves against Hezbollah because they have been locked into this general ceasefire, and that they believe that this does give Iran the path to the bomb, even if you can put in enforcement mechanisms on the ability to enrich uranium or on the stockpile of enriched uranium that they may pull it out or dispose of it, because now the regime will get so much money, they will be able to potentially buy a bomb on the international market. So to say the Israelis are unhappy is an understatement. Trump says this is the art of the deal. You have to give to get. And what you're going to get is verification after verification over 60 days of negotiations where Iran will be committed to getting rid of all of that enriched uranium stockpile, all of it, and that they will never have the capacity to enrich uranium again. It will provide wall after wall, block after block, check after check, making it impossible for Iran to develop or ever acquire a bomb. On the international point, he says they're going to monitor Iran. They've already told Pakistan and others, if you know what's good for you, you will never sell the mullahs a bomb. So Trump says he will take care of the nuclear issue once and for all. And if that means making Iran rich, then make them rich. But at least on that point, he says he has saved Israel from a potential nuclear Armageddon or a future nuclear attack from Iran. And that's why Trump feels a bit bitter himself, saying, I'm giving Bibi what he wants, a non-nuclear Iran. To which Trump is saying in private, what's his problem? So here we are. 617-266-6868. Tim in South Dennis. Thanks for holding, Tim, and welcome.
Jeff, my friend, I love you in a non-sexual manner.
Thank you, Tim. There's usually a but, though, when somebody says that, but I really disagree with you on this one. So, but go ahead, Tim. What's on your mind?
Well, the way I look at this, I mean, I don't like wars because ultimately it affects the people that have to fight in them. You know, our young men and women, our nation's finest treasure. But now, having said that, if you decide that's the route you got to go all the way to victory, especially against this kind of enemy. I equate this modern-day Muslim enemy to Imperial Japan of World War II. I mean, they're not interested in civilian casualties. They're not interested in what they do to anybody else. I mean, on December 8th, after Pearl Harbor was hit, FDR made it very clear to the American people and the world, we're going to fight through with our righteous might the final victory. And I mean, look at that regime we were up against. August 6, 45, we hit them with one bomb. The Russians come into Manchuria on August 8th. August 9th, we hit them with the second one, and it still took them a week to decide to give up. And even after the emperor finally stepped in and said, guys, this is enough, the hardliner said, but emperor, we can still lose another 10 to 20 million people and still win. I mean, that's the kind of mentality these people have over there. As long as they're in power, like I said, these hardliners, you know, they're victorious. I think the only way really you can't, I mean, imagine if we'd done, like, after Peleliu, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and then went over there begging for good terms. I think there would have been a huge, huge revolt in the United States after something like that. Here, the only way you deal with this kind of an enemy is you either... I'm sorry, having a senior moment, Jeff.
No, I get it. You finish them off. That's the way you deal with an enemy, a fanatical enemy like this, a crazed, unhinged, fanatical enemy. As you're making the comparison to Tojo and the fascists in Japan, you finish them. In other words, you start it, you finish it, and you finish it with everything you have. You make it unmistakable that they lost. And I want to play a cut, Tim, and I want to get your reply. I want to get your response. Because Trump went on a Axios podcast. Now, let me just say this. And again, I'm not saying this as a criticism. I'm really saying this as I'm baffled. I'm just baffled. Axios is a left-wing site. Its politics are like that of the New York Times or the Washington Post or CNN. And yet this administration, not just Trump, everybody, Vance, Rubio, Hegseth, RFK, Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, everybody, okay, always leaking to Axios. They get scoops given to them, fed to them by the administration that say Fox News doesn't get, Newsmax doesn't get, the New York Post, which is a very pro-Trump newspaper, often doesn't get. Okay, I'm just stating an example. So I don't know why they keep feeding these stories to Axios. I really don't. Maybe there's a reasoning behind it. To me, why legitimize your enemies? Why do that? Because Axios reviles Trump. But anyway, he sits down, this is President, now Trump, with a podcaster, Axios. And the first question, I'm not going to play the cut. The first question is, have you learned the limits of power? That there are just certain limits to military power, economic power, American power. No matter how big and strong you are, there are limits. Trump surprises him and says, no, I don't think there are limits to my power. Or at least if there are, I haven't run up against them. I went to war. I wiped out Iran's military. We imposed a blockade. We suffocated their economy. We choked them. Not one ship got through. And I got him to the negotiating table. And I got a deal. And then the Axios podcaster says, but Mr. President, okay, but at the beginning of the war, you said it repeatedly, that the goal would be, quote, regime change, unconditional surrender. What happened with Japan and Germany, you're talking to your point, Tim, after World War II, at the end of World War II, unconditional surrender. Do you think this memorandum of understanding is unconditional surrender? Listen to the president's response. Roll cut 2, Mike.
And it certainly brought Iran to the table more than before. However, beginning a conflict, you had talked about you only wanted unconditional surrender. And the MOU doesn't look like unconditional surrender.
Well, it really probably is unconditional surrender.
It is?
I think so.
So he says it is unconditional surrender. And, the guy's like, really? It is? Now, I don't care about the guy because he hates Trump and he's a leftist. So no matter what Trump said, he would oppose. But that's not me. That's not you. That's not this audience. Trump says, yeah, it's a form of unconditional surrender. Tim, is this unconditional surrender? What say you?
No. If you look at it in a World War II sense, I mean, you want them to come begging you for terms. Basically, what can we do to make you stop doing this to us? But I do understand the arguments about why Trump made this deal about getting the oil prices down and preventing a recession. Because we know these leftist Marxist Democrats are already they're foaming at the mouth, just looking for whatever they can do to use against Trump. So, and of course they would do it. It's, oh, look what he did. He said he's going to bring prices down and make us energy independent. He lied. He's a dictator. See, we told you so. And, then like you said, God knows what happens after the House and the Senate get swept up by these people. And, his presidency is over. And I don't know if they think just Kamala Harris is going to come swooping in, because it doesn't work that way. But
no, but they'll have crippled Trump, and that's what they want if they get the House and the Senate, and that's their goal. Tim, thank you again. You always make a really nice phone call. Always make some very nice points. And thank you so much for that call, Tim. So, okay, let me ask you, just to throw a quick log. Trump says this is a form of unconditional surrender. I don't think it is. To me, I've never seen an unconditional surrender where the other side gets as much as what the Iranians are getting. We won the war, yes. I think let's put it this way. I think we've lost it at the negotiating, or not lost it, but we're now looking at the prospect of a potential defeat at the negotiating table. I don't think we negotiated very well, to be honest. But this is not, in my view, an unconditional surrender. You may disagree with me, but I mean, it's certainly not the unconditional surrender we had after World War II, I'll tell you this. Okay, agree, disagree. Trump says, yeah, it's basically a new regime. Yeah, it's basically unconditional surrender. Is he right, or is he overselling his case? I think he's overselling his case, but that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. 8 o'clock. You know what that means. Caller of the week. Kuhner's call log. Take it away, Mike.
It's time for Kuhner's call log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, CJT.
As far as the deal, the situation is the leaders of Iran really didn't need a deal. The problem is when you're making a deal and one side doesn't really need a deal, like the leaders didn't, there's only so much you can get. You know, that we heard all along, Iran doesn't hold any cards. You know, in terms of poker, they held the ace of spades, which is the Strait of Hormuz. They held the ace of diamonds, the fact that the U.S. midterms were coming up. They had the ace of hearts, the U.S. gas prices. They had the ace of clubs, the fact that there's no elections in Iran and there are elections here. The only thing that's going to beat four aces is a straight flush. We didn't have the straight flush, so Trump saw it. He did what he could. We're moving on now to the midterms. Gas prices are falling. I mean, the man did what he could.
Between 6 and 10 a.m. And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's call log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. That was a brilliant call. That was an absolutely brilliant call. And the aces analogy was, I thought, perfect, spot on, absolutely spot on. I know, Jeff, you sound like a freaking tape. Best audience in the business. It's true. I don't know what else to tell you. 617-266-6868. Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Oh, boy, you're right, Bruce. The Moonbats, holy mackerel, are they out in force. Bruce, you're a patriot. You're a strong Trump supporter, but you're a hawk as well. So I'm really fascinated to hear what's on your mind. What do you think of this memorandum? And now this huge disagreement between Israel and the President Trump. Bibi and Trump, whose side are you on?
Well, let me just say this. Happy Juneteenth, and I hope you're giving Mike some overtime on it. I mean, time and a half over here, because he deserves it. You deserve it. But that aside, what the problem is, the thing of it is, Jeff, they should have clipped Iran's wings a little more than what we did. I'm on Israel's side. It's their back door. It's not like they're going to launch stuff at us right away, but they have capabilities. Lebanon. Come on, dude. Let's wake up and smell the bacon. Forget about the coffee. This is insane. The bacon is bacon over there. That's their back door. It's going to come to us. And just just look what's going on with this attempted assassination again. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm actually at Dunkin' Donuts. Will work.
Really? What, are you getting yourself, a coffee, or are you getting an actual donut?
No, I'm getting a mocha with extra cream, extra sugar.
Mocha, extra cream, extra sugar. Then what about, are you getting yourself a nice donut?
No, but my buddy's getting some little giddy-ups.
The munchkins?
A wake-up wrap and whatever. But this country needs to wake up, Jeff.
By the way, I love those chocolate munchkins. Love them. Boston cream, to me, is the best donut on the planet. So, I mean, I'm just saying, you could have one for the Kuhner man, because I'm type 2 diabetic. I can't even remember what those things taste like. But, Bruce, you and your buddy, you guys can have one on me. You know what I mean? Bruce, I got to ask you this. You're right. This is in Israel's backyard. They have to live with Hezbollah. We don't. They have to live with Hamas. We don't. They have to live with the Houthis. We don't. And ultimately, if Iran gets that nuke, whether they make it or they buy it, it doesn't really matter. It's going to fall on the heads of Israelis. So, as you put it, they have more skin in the game on this than we do. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think Israel is basically going to be forced to ignore Trump and resume their bombing and attack on Hezbollah? Which, if that happens, that means the ceasefire is over, the negotiations are over, and essentially we're back at war. Do you think ultimately that's what's going to happen?
What I think is going to happen is what you're predicting, what I'm predicting. I'll tell you, I'm 68, almost 69. I will get on a plane, I will fly to Israel, and I will go to war against Lebanon, Iran, whatever. I got to have a good... I can still drive a truck for them. I can drive whatever. I'm going to drive everybody crazy with this. I want Israel to be with a green light to protect themselves any way, shape, or form, Jeff. I don't care what these liberals want to, we got to cut Iran slack. Oh, no. I don't care about gas. I don't care about the price of gas. I'll pay $10 a gallon to have us protected and have Iran off the freaking... I'm telling you, Jeff, I'm irate over this. How can they turn their back on Israel when they've been there for us? We can't do this.
Bruce, thank you very much for that call. So Bruce is in BB's camp on this one. Agree, disagree. How much time left, Mike? All right. Pete in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Pete, and welcome.
I've loved you in the morning. I've loved you in the afternoon. I've even loved you at night in a non-sexual way, but we're getting a divorce.
We are?
Reason.
Are you going to leave me the house, Pete?
And you've gone goofy, Kuhner.
All right. Now go ahead, Pete. Tell me. So I take it you disagree with me. What do you disagree with me about? And I take it are you mad at Trump or are you mad at me?
100% for Trump and this deal. You're worried about money? How about the $300 billion we've given Bibi and the boys in Jerusalem? What about that money? The money we want to give them is their money. We stole it. We got to give it back. That's a false argument. The real terrorism comes out of Israel. Their battle plans are always to kill the women and children first. And they did so by bombing us, that school in They kill kids first and women. They're cowards. They're the terrorists. You've gone goofy, Kuhner.
Well, Pete, let me ask you this. What about Iran killing our service members, arming Hezbollah, which has killed countless civilians? Hamas, I mean, just look at October 7th. Thousands of Jewish, innocent Jews, babies, put in microwaves. Innocent people burned alive. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, here is now the absolute latest, my friends. Apparently now talks between the United States and Iran have been called off, at least temporarily. J.D. Vance was supposed to go to Switzerland with the negotiating team to start negotiating the 60-day process to get rid of Iran's enrichment, their enrichment capacity, and to negotiate a way to get rid of their highly enriched uranium stockpile, either destroy it, remove it, dilute it. That has been called off. JD is not going to Switzerland because fighting has now erupted again in Lebanon. About maybe 8 to 12 hours ago, Hezbollah fighters launched missile strikes and bomb strikes into northern Israel, incinerating 4 Israeli soldiers. They are continuing to take pot shots at the Israeli military. Israel has said they're not going to stand by and allow their soldiers to be picked off and killed one by one. So they have now ordered a series of devastating strikes on Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon. The ceasefire, the memorandum of understanding, explicitly states that there must be no fighting between Israel and Lebanon, or forgive me, Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. If there is, then the deal is off. So I'm not saying the deal is off, but negotiations for now have been called off. And if this fighting between Hezbollah and Israel continues and continues to escalate dramatically, it's going to blow up the entire negotiations and the entire memorandum of understanding before it even gets off the ground. So this is a very fragile ceasefire that may blow up at any second. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mike, who do you want me to go to next? Eddie in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Eddie.
I'm going to take this a little bit of a different direction. You understand what Zelensky and Ukraine are doing with their drones. I mean, they're improving them at least monthly. And I think that's the warfare of the near future. And that plays right into Hezbollah, Hamas's hands. You know, how much does a drone cost as opposed to a missile, never mind, an atomic bomb? And I don't know, but I would think that the Jews understand this. And, I mean, here you go, it's blowing up already. I thought that they'd wait until September, October. I think they're going to get a big surprise from Iran. I mean, they want Trump out of there. And, we've got Democrats. You might get the next Democratic president says, yeah, we're going to rip this up, build your atomic bomb.
Well, Eddie, look, one of the big developments of the war, it's been a stunning development. I've touched on it multiple times. The media doesn't want to discuss it because they know the American people will be utterly revolted and disgusted. The Democrats are openly siding with Iran. This has never happened before in the history of the United States. Whatever you think of the war, for it, against it, it doesn't really matter. We were at war with Iran. We lost 13 service members. They died. They were firing at our pilots. They were bombing our bases. They were shooting and droning our sailors. They were trying to kill as many Americans as possible. And the Democrats' official position was, we side with Iran. We want Iran to win. And to the extent that the Iranians said we're going to coordinate our strategy and formulate our approach to this war based on an alliance with the Democrats, which is we're going to block the Strait of Hormuz to tank the world economy, to drive up oil and gas prices so the Democrats can run on that and defeat Trump in the midterms and then impeach him, cripple his presidency, and make it impossible for him to fight the war against us, against the mullahs, the IRGC. And that's how we're going to drive America out of the Middle East. So you have the Democratic Party now. This is open, naked treason. They're siding with Iran. And the Iranian mullahs are open about it. Just look at Iranian TV. They said we have two key assets that will ensure our victory. Number one, control over the Strait of Hormuz, because that's the proverbial boot on the neck of the economy, the global economy. And we have the Democrats in Congress. And together we will break Donald Trump. So you're absolutely, completely right, Eddie. They are the fifth columnists within. That's what they are. They're the fifth column. And they're coordinating with Iran. And that's why, look, I think the Iranians are even saying, look, they're going for broke. They're the ones telling Hezbollah, keep firing. Keep firing. Because now Trump is openly fighting with Bibi. So the strategy is keep firing into Israel. Keep poking the bear, poking the bear, poking the bear. They're going to have to respond. The Israeli public is not going to stand for their, northern Israel being carpet bombed and their soldiers being incinerated. And Israel now, under pressure, has responded. And they're saying, just keep fighting. What? Because they're convinced now Trump doesn't have the stomach to resume bombing. So let's blow this thing sky high. And then, by blowing it sky high, Trump doesn't even have a deal to come back to. Gas prices will start going back up. Gas and oil and energy will start going back up. And you'll have a final rupture between Israel and the United States, because Trump will be really pissed off at the Israelis now, because he doesn't want them to fire back. He wants to go through with the 60 days. And now Israel will be alone, having lost its biggest backer. That's why JD, I'll play the cut again, he was kind of warning them, saying, look, we're your only ally really in the world, and by far your most powerful ally. Do you really want to be criticizing us in public? Like, do you realize we can cut you off? And you're all alone. And that's what Iran wants. This thing may already be over. I'm not saying it is. Please don't misinterpret me here. But the way they're starting to go at it now in southern Lebanon between Israel and Hezbollah, to be fair, Hezbollah is completely to blame for this. 1,000%. It's been well documented. They were launching the bombs, the missiles, the drones. They killed 4 minimum, maybe even more now, Israeli soldiers. And they were just itching to get Israel to respond back. And Israel retaliated. Trump apparently is on the phone with Bibi. He's trying to tell him to stand down. The mullahs claim they're trying to tell Hezbollah to stand down. But everybody knows with Hezbollah, Iran says jump and they say how high. In Lebanon, you ask the Lebanese, they refer to them not as Hezbollah, as Iranian Hezbollah. Meaning they're completely controlled by Tehran. Completely. And their goal is to colonize Lebanon on behalf of Iran. That's the purpose of Hezbollah. So we may not even have a negotiation because the Iran and Hezbollah and Israel are just going to be at each other's throats. So all of this may ultimately be for nothing. And let me even bare my soul to you like I'm in the confessional. It could happen. I'm not saying I don't have a crystal ball. I don't claim to have a crystal ball. I would not be shocked this thing doesn't make 60 days. Let's say they even resolve the fighting now. I don't see this going 60 days. with these, with this regime, they're going to violate something. They're going to, they're going to break some provision. I don't think it's going to go 60 days. I think the talks will eventually collapse. And so, to be honest, that's another reason why. Now, it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, Trump can turn around and say, you couldn't have given him a better offer. I mean, to the whole world. Just look around like, can I be any more reasonable? How much more reasonable? I've bent over backwards for them, and it's still not good enough. So now I really have no choice but to resume bombing. And the world will say, yeah, we can't blame you, go ahead. Or it could have the opposite effect. And that's my fear, to be honest. Where you've given so much, you've made so many concessions, you've angered and, alienated or disaffected so many people in your own base. And in the end, it's all for nothing. In the end, there never was going to be a deal, ever. So anyway, it is what it is. 617-266-6868. Let's go to Mike. Russ in Maine. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Call, Jeff. I enjoy listening to you, and I enjoy listening to your wife on the weekends.
Thank you. Thank you, Russ.
But I have a little different way to look at this, and I think if I could give you a little history on how we got here, what the war is really about. What's been happening is our intelligence agencies have been weaponized against us. So we go with Ronald Reagan, good guy working for us. They try and kill him. Then we go to Bush, total CIA. And then we go to Clinton, total CIA. If you ever see the movie American Made about Bobby Seale running drugs out of Nemo, Arkansas, you can see how the CIA made Clinton. Then we go to Bush 2, total CIA. And then we go to Barack Obama, third generation CIA. His mother, Mary Ann Dunham, worked for USAID. And during the church hearings, they said USAID was part of the CIA. Now we get to Trump. Now, what does Trump do on his first day in office in 2017? He goes right to the den of thieves. He goes right into the CIA headquarters and gives a speech in front of the Wall of Stars. He knows what the fight's about. Now, am I saying that the CIA is all bad? No. I would say, what I like to say is that 80% of the CIA are good people. They're just trapped in a bad system. The way the CIA works is a need-to-know basis. So you can be doing something for the CIA, thinking you're helping America, and you're actually hurting America because you don't know. If you have the top part of the CIA, they're the people that know what's really going on. Now, the CIA had a couple strongholds: Iran, Venezuela, Ukraine, and Cuba. And I believe that's what the war is about. That's what Trump is fighting. He's fighting these rogue intelligence agencies.
Russ, fascinating. I have to say, absolutely fascinating. When you say that's what this war is about, can you just refine that argument a little bit more? You're saying what, the CIA convinced him to go to war in Iran? Is that what you're saying?
It's been a stronghold of the intelligence agencies for years. They brought down the Shah. They put in this regime. And now when I say not CIA, I'm talking CIA, MI6, which MI6 is like our CIA, MI5 is like our FBI, and Mossad. These are rogue intelligence agencies.
And Russ, are you saying that they convinced him that there was an imminent nuclear threat, and so Trump had to move now, or whatever, February 28th, 3.5 months ago, but I'm using now in a metaphorical sense, move now to topple this regime or attack this regime because they were on the verge 2 weeks, as they kept saying, 2 weeks from the bomb. But you're saying that basically they were manipulating Trump into this war, correct?
He has to eliminate these countries to do what he needs to do in this country. He has to eliminate Iran, Venezuela, which he's done. Venezuela, Ukraine's doing it. He's going to have to go to Cuba and take down Cuba. Now, I don't think that's going to be long, but but it's a stronghold, in North Korea. But I think North Korea, he took over. He null and voided them on the first term.
Interesting. So you're really saying that the deep state is threatening the president, that the deep state essentially told him, if you want to enact any kind of your agenda, well, let's say on the border, on immigration, on deportations, on the economy, on, whatever, crime. In other words, if you don't want us to try another coup against you, like we did with Russia collusion, you better do our bidding. And our bidding now is, we want you to bomb Iran, we want you to destroy it, and you're going to destroy it, correct?
I would say, yeah. I don't know how he's null and voiding that. He's out there and he knows he has to take these countries over that have been run by these rogue intelligence agencies for years. Just like he did with Venezuela.
Interesting. Russ, that's a very, very interesting theory. Look, I know for a fact that there are many elements in the CIA that want Trump gone. The deep state reviles him. They want him gone. There's no question. The Uniparty wants him gone. The Swamp wants him gone. I've never seen anything like this. And this second term in particular, they're more open, more brazen, more explicit than ever before. Ever before. And so this is a president under siege. He's been under siege the second he walked in, and they haven't let up. Russ, very interesting call. Thank you for that call, Russ. 617-266-6868 is the number. I want to read to you a couple of texts and then go right back to the phone lines. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is from 917. Jeff, one of the callers mentioned that we are giving Iran money, and a lot of money, and they can simply buy a nuke from Pakistan, or Pakistan, as Obama puts it. That would suddenly make Iran a menace similar to North Korea. Bingo. I think there's no question. And if you look at North Korea, why does nobody threaten North Korea? Even China. I know that North Korea is essentially a colony or a vassal of China. But, Xi Jinping has said repeatedly he gets frustrated with Kim Jong-il. Or Kim Jong-un, forgive me. He gets, little rocket man. He gets very frustrated with Kim. But the reason why he can't ever remove him is because, that lunatic has 10, 15 nuclear missiles? And if he starts launching them into China, goodbye China. So they have to put up with his antics. The women, the Swedish the Swedish call girls, the cocaine, the orgies, the partying, the whole bit. The debauchery, which the Chinese just can't stand. They think it's just, A, it's running the country into the ground, and B, it's just unseemly. It's just, that's not how you run a country. And they fear eventually it's going to cost them control over North Korea. But anyway, you look at, the North Koreans, they have the bomb. That's why nobody wants to mess with them. If Iran gets the bomb, no matter, by through Pakistan or however, it'll become the North Korea of the Middle East. You won't be able to touch them. Nobody will be able to touch them for fear of risking a nuclear war. Okay, just to put a quick exclamation point on what I was saying before the break. The thing about a nuclear North Korea is, well, they're all commies, obviously, and they're atheists. So what that means is this is the life. There's no afterlife. And so, in a way, it's a disincentive for them to use their nuclear weapons, because if they, use a nuke and someone nukes them, it's over. You're dead. You go 6 feet in the ground, and that's where it all ends. With the mullahs, should Iran ever get the bomb, and you have a nuclear Iran, I think it's infinitely more dangerous than North Korea. Why? Because you've got fanatical mullahs who believe in what they call paradise, with their 72 virgins in heaven, if they should die for Allah. So they actually have an incentive to use a nuclear bomb to, let's say, annihilate Israel, annihilate the Jews, annihilate the West, because that for them would bring about the end of days, the coming of the 12th Imam, as they call it, and the beginning of the world, the triumph of a world Muslim empire. So then the Iranian leaders would die as martyrs, and they would get their 72 virgins in heaven. So they want to use the bomb. The purpose of the bomb is to eventually be used to get eternal salvation. And what you should never forget is by the way, this was the turning point speech where so many in Iran turned against the regime. And it was about maybe 15 years ago. And that was the then supreme leader who we killed in the early days of this war, Khamenei, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, where he laid out the whole theological basis of the end of days. And he said, if we get a nuclear bomb, we can then drop it on Israel. And he said, of course, Israel has nuclear weapons, so they would then bomb us. And so he openly, he's just talking about this openly. It was in the Iranian parliament. And everybody was listening to him, absolutely mesmerized. All these, IRGC, pro-Ayatollah lawmakers. And he said, so the world will then end in a great ball of fire, a huge mushroom cloud. Hundreds of millions, maybe even billions, will die. And he says, of course, at the time the population was 70 million. Now it's 93 million in Iran. But at the time it was 70 million, I think 72 million. He said, so of course, 72 million Iranians will all die. But then he says, but that will be to our glory, because we will sacrifice ourselves like holy warriors and martyrs to bring about the Mahdi, the 12th Imam. And then that will lead to the final global caliphate, the triumph of Islam over the entire globe. And then we will all get our reward, all of us, in paradise. In paradise. And he basically laid out the game plan. We get the nuke, and then we use the nuke as essentially a form of salvation. Now, the common Iranian heard this, read the speech, and they said, these guys are absolutely insane. Because they're willing to sacrifice all of us as cannon fodder for their insane theological, messianic fantasy of bringing about the apocalypse so that they can all get their 72 virgins in heaven. So this is what I mean when I say the one country that can never get a nuclear weapon, the one, is Iran. I'm not saying it's okay that China has one, has missiles, or North Korea. You don't want the commies to have it because they blackmail, they extort. But at least with the communists, they're like, well, we don't want to use it. Why? Because then that's it. That's all there is. This is it. It's, they're materialists. They're atheists. So they're, as the communists say, you die and then the worms go into your body, and that's how you end. So they don't really want to die. They want to, think about commies, they want to live as long as possible. These guys, they're itching to be martyrs. 617, it's a death cult. It's truly a death cult. They love death because in death, they believe, is eternal happiness. They love death a lot more than they love life. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, one more, just super quick. This is from 508. You can text the Kuhner Man 70470 because I think 508 hits the nail right on the head. Jeff, Trump needed to pull out the Iranian leadership root and branch. This is not a political situation. It is a death cult, an ideology that is hell-bent on world domination. To the radical Islamists, all of this is merely just a setback. Iran is not a nation. It is a cause. Bingo. Bingo. They're bent on world domination. Not that they can conquer the world just by dropping a few nukes. And they believe ultimately in a death cult. So to them, this is just a battle, a skirmish in a longer theological war that they believe inevitably, according to the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad, that they believe ultimately they are destined to win. That's the minds of the people we're dealing with. So, nothing against JD. I love him. The president, I love him. But you're Western. You're profoundly, in a civilized, good way. You're saying, here's $300 billion in reconstruction. Here's another $120 million in access to frozen assets. You can sell oil now. What do you want? Hotels? You got it. What do you want? Beautiful roads? You want skyscrapers? You want restaurants? You want schools? You want hospitals? You want factories? You want offices, business offices? You want parks? You want homes? You can build up an incredibly wealthy, prosperous country. That's Western. They're looking at that mushroom cloud. 617-266 with, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. That's what you're dealing with. 617-266-6868. Diane in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Diane, and welcome.
Israel made the first mistake by urging Trump to get into the war. Trump made a huge mistake by getting into the war. Then events happen, and Trump realizes he's got to exit ramp somewhere. So he does the best he can with this decision he made to make a deal with Iran. But with the newest events, when you said you talked about just at this point, it's better for Trump to just walk away. Is that still an option? Is that still a Bible thing to do at this point?
I think it is. If I were him, I always want to qualify something with, I always want to qualify what I say with this, because I'm a man of humility. I don't claim to know everything. I work hard. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of reading. I take pride in being very well prepped for this show, out of respect for you, the audience, and out of respect for me as, being behind this microphone. It's a tremendous privilege. So I come in, I truly do my best. Like last night, I was up till 1:30 in the morning, show prepping. And I'm doing, often I do a show in a couple hours to give you the latest information. So, but saying all that, I'm not privy to certain information that Trump has. I just don't. I don't have classified information. He does. So he may be seeing things, he may be knowing things I'm not aware of. I can only comment on what I see, what I know. So maybe he knows something I don't. But my position has always been no deal is better than a bad deal. And now, with the fighting escalating, clearly in Lebanon, they're really starting to bomb each other now. Well, they violated the ceasefire. I don't care at this point whether Hezbollah or Israel did it. The ceasefire has now been violated. If I'm Trump, that's my way out. And then turn around and say, look, I tried to make a deal. Iran couldn't rein in Hezbollah. Look at what I offered him. I offered him the world. I gave him the moon, man. I gave him the farm. Nobody, look, at the G7, they all stood up and clapped. They weren't jerking his chain. They weren't yanking his chain. They were like, this is a very generous offer that you've now made to the Iranians. Now, if they're not willing to rein in Hezbollah because they want to launch rockets to kill Jews, then there's nothing you can do to satisfy this regime. And then I think Trump can then say, I'm tearing up the memorandum. It's been violated. And now there's no more deal. We won and we're going home. Or, I mean, we want to keep our forces there, but I'm not going to do another deal. Well, what about the Strait? Well, Europe and Asia can come in there and clean up the Strait. If you want, I'll send the Navy, our Navy. We'll clean up the Strait. And if I need to, I'll bomb those coastal defenses. I'll bomb the Strait of Hormuz. They're all those defenses that the Iranians have. I'll bomb them night and day for 7, 10, 14 days, whatever it takes. But the Strait is going to be clear. By the way, just so that you know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be throwing all this information. Iran just officially came out and said, this is straight from the regime, that they now say they're going to impose fees, not tolls, but fees, on all maritime services, all ships going through the Strait of Hormuz after the 60-day negotiation is over. So they're saying the Strait of Hormuz is now ours. We control it, and we're going to charge a massive fee for every ship, every oil tanker. I mean, they're going to make hundreds of billions off of this, but more than that, they're saying we control the most vital waterway in the world. The United States cannot allow that. The world cannot allow that. And by the way, it's against the United Nations. It's against international law. This is piracy now on the high seas. They don't have a right to just impose a fee or a toll. Prior to the war, it was free, unrestricted, unlimited passage to any ship. So they're in violation of international law. If I'm President Trump, I go right to the United Nations and say, they're breaking the law. They're costing all of you money. We don't need the Strait. We don't get a single drop of oil from the Strait. You do. Clean it up. I've taken care of the nuclear problem. By the way, there is no freaking Navy because I destroyed their Navy. So you're dealing with speedboats and drones. Russia, China, India, France, Britain, Europe, South Korea, Japan. I could go on and on. That's your oil. Go and get it. To me, that's what I would do if I were him. But I don't know what he's looking at. I don't know what information he has. But again, no deal is better than this deal. But I think even now that's a moot point because I don't think there's going to be a deal. Because they're fighting. And there's no negotiations. Because you're dealing with medieval savages. Look, Diane, if this was you, not that it would be you, but just humor me. If you were the leader of Iran, and this is the offer you get from the United States of America, after your military has been absolutely smashed, I mean, there's nothing left. Your nuclear program that you spent billions, generations of money on is, scattered to the wind. Your revered Ayatollah is dead. Most of your political leaders are dead. You're dropping like flies because they keep, Israel keeps assassinating people. You're barely clinging to power. You've got your people now rising up because the inflation is at 300%. They desperately need economic relief. If not, they're going to hang you from a lamppost. And here comes Donald Trump, sell all the oil. $120 billion in assets, a $300 billion reconstruction fund. I mean, we're going to rain money on you. All you got to do is just say, here, no nuclear weapon, no enrichment. We're giving back the stockpile and let the checks come in. Let the money flow in. Any normal, sane person would say, take the deal. Look at them. It's barely 24. The ink isn't even dry. And Hezbollah is already launching rockets. Diane, am I wrong?
Oh, no, thank you. The U.S. right.
Right? I mean, but if you were them, wouldn't you take the deal? And you'd be on the phone with Hezbollah. You'd be saying, listen, one grenade, one bullet, and you're dead. Do you understand? Right? Wouldn't you tell them that?
Cool.
I mean, because it's going to rain money. Let it rain money. Nope.
There's no reasoning with them, that's all.
That's the point. Diane, thank you so much for that call. 617. No, really, I've said this before, but I really mean this. The people I really feel sorry for are the negotiators on our side. Do you know what it is to negotiate with these people? And they're all complaining when they come back. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody. They're like, literally, this is the stuff I'm hearing. Mr. President, I'd rather have a root canal. And he's laughing, because it's funny. He goes, I'll do root canal. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't put me in that room with these savages. They're 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago. Look, we're not here to talk about what happened 100. Can we just stick to the freaking deal? And then you agree on something, and then they say, no, we didn't agree on it. And then, can we go to the transcript? Why we go to transcript? Why? You don't believe me? You insult me? I mean, this is what it's like with these people. You're paving over the same ground over and over and over, and that's how they win. Because after all, you say, okay, look, whatever, just put whatever you want in there. Like, just shut up, put it in there, and we'll work it out. So here you have the deal of the century, and they're firing rockets into Israel. 617, I don't know what else to tell you. 617-266-6868. Mike, Rob in Maine. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome. Rob? All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Rob. Who next? Steve in Florida, the Freedom State. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Jeff, I think you're wonderful. I have a theory. Please let me get the whole theory out, yes, because it's nothing that we've thought about.
Go ahead.
Please let me get.
Yes,
please
go ahead. Floor is yours.
The Muslims are infiltrating the world. They're infiltrating England. They're infiltrating France. They're infiltrating the United States. Our deep state in this country is the puppet master. They play chess. We all play checkers. Everybody in Kuhner country, we're all playing checkers. Okay? Donald Trump has just done an about-face in Iran and in Israel. Why? Because he is compromised. He is now a compromised president. Okay? John Thune does not like President Trump. I believe the word has been put out that if the Democrats win the midterms, and they are going to win them because they're going to steal them, the word's gotten out that the Senate will impeach Donald Trump. Why has J.D. Vance suddenly become so in the forefront? Why has Donald Trump permitted J.D. Vance to be front and center on the stage with regard to Iran, the Iran strategy, the Iran policy? Why? J.D. Vance is John Brennan was running the CIA. People think he's still running the CIA. John Brennan is a Muslim. There has been a decision in this country by the deep state to realign themselves. We are now at an inflection point in the United States with regard to the direction of the United States. We are no longer going to be supporting Israel. We are going to be supporting the Muslims. Why? Because when the Muslims take over France and the Muslims take over England and they have nuclear power, what's the sure way to deal with that? The sure way to deal with that is to be their friend and their ally, so they will have no reason to use that nuclear power on us.
Steve, Can you please hang on? I think it's a fascinating theory, and I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go right back to Steve. Steve, if you can just do me a big favor, hang on just for a little bit. I'm going to be very quick. There is massive breaking news. I want all of you to know about it. So, the New York Post, but other newspapers, media outlets are reporting this as well. Iran has now declared the Strait of Hormuz closed again. So they've just blocked the Strait of Hormuz again. So the talks in Switzerland are off. Now they're not just off. Iran now says they're going to block all vessels, all oil tankers, all shipping. Basically, we're back at square one. Now, just by the way, the United States lifted its blockade completely. So it's not like we didn't hold up our end of the deal. So Iran now has said in a statement that they have reclosed the Strait of Hormuz this morning, and they will not be coming to Switzerland to engage in these 60 days of negotiations, saying that Israel is refusing to leave Lebanon. And because Israel is refusing to leave Lebanon, and that the United States, their forces are still in the region, they say that this is a violation of the Memorandum of Understanding, according to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, in an official statement that they read over Iranian media and to the world. And they say it violates the agreement, I'm using their words now, the Memorandum of Understanding between the two countries, which President Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian signed on Wednesday. And let me just give you the big quote, and then I'm going to go back to Steve. Quote, since Israel's withdrawal from Lebanon, the complete lifting of the naval blockade, and the withdrawal of American terrorist forces from the Persian Gulf and the entire region are among the main conditions of the agreement between Iran and the United States. The Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until these conditions are met. It continues, all ships, that means all the ships going through the strait, are requested for the sake of their security and safety not to approach the Strait of Hormuz. Any vessel that defies this directive will be targeted. Basically, we're going to blow you up or we're going to attack you. Now, very quickly, because I want to go to Steve. They're lying. The Iranians are lying. The IRGC is lying. Number one, we have completely lifted the naval blockade, so I don't know what they're talking about. Okay, that's a lie. Number two, I've read the agreement. I painfully read the agreement to you on the air yesterday. Every clause. I can go back. It's clause 1. I can go back and, bore you. I don't want to do it, but I'm not going to do it. But I could bore you, bore your brains out. All it says is an immediate ceasefire. It does not say that Israel must withdraw from Lebanon. It's nowhere in the agreement. What it says, yes, ceasefire, nobody can shoot at each other, yes, but not that Israel has to get out of Lebanon. And yes, there is a mention of us withdrawing our forces, which I disagreed with, if you remember, but this is 30 days after a final agreement, with the 60-day negotiation. I read the freaking clause. So there's going to be 60 days of negotiation. It's clearly stated in the I think it's article, is it 6 or 7? Anyway, it's there in the Memorandum of Understanding. 60 days of negotiations. Then if there's a final deal, 30 days after the final deal is signed, the United States will leave or withdraw all of its forces from near Iran and from the region, which I said, if you remember, I opposed. I said, why would we do that? I mean, we're going to have less influence in the region. But look, it doesn't matter, okay, whether I agree or not. It never said the immediate removal of all American forces. It doesn't say that. It just doesn't. So what I interpret, you may disagree with me, and then I'm going to go to Steve. What I interpret is basically Bibi is saying to Trump privately, I told you so. They don't want a freaking agreement. They're looking for any reason to break the agreement and to embarrass and humiliate you, Mr. President, to make a fool out of you and your vice president now. And so what they're now pushing is, if you want to go back to the memorandum of understanding, you have to force Israel out of Lebanon, which would be a massive victory for Hezbollah and a huge defeat for Israel. All of our forces now must leave the entire Persian Gulf, which would be a massive victory for Iran and a huge military defeat for us. Joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, CEO, and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. Summer is one of the most popular times of the year for retirees to travel, whether it's visiting family, exploring a new destination, or finally taking that dream trip. Travel can be one of the most rewarding parts of retirement. The challenge is that costs can add up quickly when we focus on airfare and hotels, but overlook all the smaller expenses that come along with them. That's why we encourage people to think about travel as part of their overall retirement lifestyle, not as a separate financial decision. In my book, Retire Your Fear, Plan Your Future, I discuss the importance of understanding the bigger picture so you can enjoy the things you love with greater confidence and less worry. At Kelly Financial, our advisors help people evaluate how travel, health care, family goals, and other priorities fit together so they can make informed decisions about the future. To request your complimentary copy of Retire Your Fear, Plan Your Future, give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I'll continue this conversation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or go to our website for the radio rewind. Jeff, happy Father's Day. My best to Grace and the kiddos, and I hope they spoil you all weekend.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a copy of that book, Retire Your Fear, Plan Your Future by Kelly. And I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881. Or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. 9:34 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. I'll be honest. If the kids will let me sleep in on Sunday, I'm a happy man. Yeah, everybody's like, Daddy, what could we get you for Father's Day? Could you just let me sleep in? Please? Give me a break. Let me get a few hours extra sleep on Sunday, please. That's it. That's all I want. Okay. Again, we lost Steve. He dropped. Steve, my apologies. Just very quick, 'cause Steve made a fascinating point. Steve said, look, you've got this massive Muslim insurgency and population growing in Britain, in France, all across Western Europe. Clearly now our deep state believes that maybe it's better to collaborate with them in hopes that they will spare us because they want to join the winning side. And it reminds me a little bit of the Nazis in the 1930s and early 1940s, where places like France, but all across Europe, said, you know, yeah, we don't really fall very high on their racial order, but it's better to be with the winning side, and hopefully they'll show some mercy or they'll spare us. That's the sense I'm starting to get from our deep state as well, that they're willing now to throw Israel under the bus, and they're willing now to make deals with Iran, with other Muslim countries, even with Islamic extremists, because to them the writing is on the wall. Europe will fall, or at least Western Europe. France and Britain will fall. The West is now being overrun, and they believe that in the end, Muslims will dominate much of the West. And so if you can't beat them, join them. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's blind. I think it's naive. I think it's foolish. Honestly, I think it's stupid and craven. But I think Steve is onto something. Now, super quick. The deal now is over. I mean, I don't know if Trump can revive it. We shall see. But the Strait of Hormuz has now been closed by Iran. And now they've upped the ante, saying Israel must pull out completely from Lebanon. The United States must remove all of our forces from the entire Persian Gulf. And unless we do that, they're going to continue to block the Strait of Hormuz. Now, to me, Trump cannot accept this because this is a violation, an explicit violation of the MOU. Iran is violating the memorandum flagrantly. And they're blackmailing us by now closing the Strait of Hormuz again. This is blackmail. This is extortion. So the president now has really two options. Either he gives Iran the middle finger and says, we're not going to negotiate with you anymore. You're not a good faith partner, obviously. You're a bunch of liars. And we're going to bomb the hell out of you now. Now you're going to learn who's in control of the Strait of Hormuz and who really won this war. Or the president's just going to say, throw up his hands, I'm not dealing with these savages anymore. I'm out. Israel, you do what you got to do. You want to pound Hezbollah to oblivion in southern Lebanon? Go ahead. You want to launch airstrikes on Iran? Go ahead. Do whatever you want to do. I am done. I'm done. And to Europe and Asia and all these countries around the world, the oil that you rely on goes through the Strait of Hormuz. You deal with the mullahs. You reopen the strait. So I think those are really the two options now that the president faces. But as things stand right now, this deal is now over. And it was the Iranians who broke the deal. 617-2. Now, Trump may revive it. He may be working the phones. Who knows what may happen in the next 24, 48 hours. But the negotiations have been canceled at the request of Iran. And they have now completely closed the Strait of Hormuz. And they have given their conditions like a blackmailer, like, taking a hostage. Unless Israel gets out of Lebanon, and unless we, the United States, withdraw all of our forces from the entire Persian Gulf, the strait now remains closed. So your gas prices that were going down, now they're going to start to go back up. Keith in North Carolina. Thanks for holding, Keith, and welcome.
Yeah, hi, Jeff.
Hi, Keith.
Yeah, actually, I saw the breaking news, too, and I think it could be a blessing in disguise because we all know that this whole past week, the deal was completely one-sided. We got really nothing out of it. And it was it would have a framework of instability in the future. I was thinking what should have happened before Operation Epic Fury is Trump should have had a coalition of our NATO partners before any kind of kinetic activity happened. That way, everybody would be able to plan better, and we would have, large nation states putting pressure on Iran. The second mistake was doing this deal behind Bibi's back, because, he can't just, Israel has the right to defend itself. I mean, Hezbollah and Hamas are these terrorist networks funded by Iran. It's very clear. This deal is falling apart. It's not going to work. Now, I think what he should do now is he's got leverage, because he can go to our NATO partners in Europe and say, hey, look, I tried to make a deal. It's not working. I need your support to put pressure on Iran. If not, we will have no choice but to buy more buy oil from Russia, like we did before the Ukrainian sanctions, because we had before that 20% of our oil products were supplied and purchased by Russia, and so they would say, "Oh, we can't do that." So then they'll be forced to join the table.
Oh, I think you're brilliant, Keith. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Look, I think you're right. I think he's got to go now to the G7, to the Europeans, to NATO. I think he's got to go to China as well. Say, hey guys, you get a lot of your oil from the Strait. I'm not taking no for an answer. India, ditto. So we're all going to go in together, and we're going to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And the other thing I would do, not that I care for the UN, but I would go to the United Nations, because the Iranians are in violation of international law. So I would bring the full weight of international law just to bolster my position, and just say to the world, we can't allow this to happen. And what I love about it, it now gives them an excuse to tear up the deal. Now, the only thing I want to know, Keith, okay, this is the only thing, was any money released to Iran yet? Because when you read the agreement, they say the moment it's signed, there's going to be money released. Okay, the Iranians have blocked the Strait of Hormuz again. And the negotiations in Switzerland have been canceled for now. Apparently now I'm just, reading on certain trusted news sites and some of the newspapers I really trust. So apparently now Trump is furiously working the phones to get a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. And his people now are trying to reach out to the Iranian leadership to see if they can get them to reopen the strait and prevent this from becoming another full-blown diplomatic crisis. But as things stand right now, the MOU is dead. It may be revived, but for now, it is dead in the water. Lorenzo in South Boston. Thanks for holding, Lorenzo, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. I don't know what happened to you. You changed, but the pop shots that you take at Trump and everything, I'm disappointed in you. But anyways, you are a smart guy. You do your homework. I feel that, guys like, you, Levin, and the other guy, I can't think, do think you're the smartest. Michael Savage, the smartest guy in the room. Listen, if you thought Trump was going to sell out and the administration was going to sell our country out, that wasn't going to happen. Now they broke the deal. These rats and mullahs, they broke the deal. Okay? But Trump will do what he said. He'll bomb them into the Stone Age. But you guys have got to lighten up. Trump's got he's got to fight the swamp, what you always say. He's got to fight this sewer, and he, he's getting pop shots from guys in the media all the time. Let things play out. The American people will they're waking up, so they're going to start holding these politicians. But that guy say that Iran and these Muslims are going to. There's no one going to let these people take over. They're not going to let. Our great soldiers won't let this. We have to be united, and we have to have Trump's back. You said what drives the economy, what gets it going? Infrastructure, oil, the construction workers that do this. He had to do this because the only way that they can destroy Trump's administration is through a COVID thing and destroying the economy. That's the only thing these nuts and the deep state on the left have. And Trump was trying to just jump to start the economy. Because, Jeff, you know when the economy gets going on a downhill, it's like the automobile industry, like the biotech industries. When these industries came in, the economy was roaring. Same thing's going to happen with AI. I don't know a lot about AI. You know a hell of a lot more than AI than I do. But AI is here to stay, Jeff.
Oh, no, I agree. Look, Lorenzo, I agree with almost everything you said. Look, let me just ask you this, and please speak from the heart. I trust. I'm not sensitive about these things. I really am not. Do you like this deal or do you not like this deal? Would you say good deal or bad deal?
Well, do I like the deal? I don't like that where they have potential to get money. No, but I like the deal that it opens up the economy. It's going to get it on a downhill hill where they can't sabotage them, Jeff.
No, I understand that. No, I get you. No, look, Lorenzo, I think it's a bad deal. That's it. I mean, literally, that's it. I thought the president signed a bad deal. And he said he was under a lot of pressure to sign it, and he gave his reasons why, and I understand why. And now it's almost a moot point because the Iranians have closed the strait again. So they've got their boot back on the neck of the economy again. They're going to try to drive gas and oil prices high again. And so that's why I was saying you can't make a deal with these people. So I'm not faulting the president for trying peace. I'm not faulting the president for trying to restart the economy because I think he needs a strong economy to win in November. So you and I on that are simpatico. I'm just saying sometimes you can't force a peace that just isn't there. And it's clearly not there. And to be honest, Lorenzo, I don't think we can come back after this. I don't think there's going to be another deal. Now, we'll see what happens over the weekend. But they've effectively now shut down the Strait of Hormuz one more time. And I think Trump's going to have to ask himself, how much more can I keep negotiating with these people? They're a bunch of savages. And so I think, Lorenzo, he's going to have to make a choice. Either finish the job, which I'd love for him to do, just hit, Israel and the United States, our troops, go in there and finish them. And we open the strait permanently. Or, which is another alternative, say, okay, I'm just not going to give you any money. You broke the deal, no money, not a penny. We leave, and then let Europe and Asia and the rest of the world deal with the Strait of Hormuz. So all I'm saying is, don't give the Ayatollahs any money, because we know what they're going to use it for. And, I mean, Lorenzo, look at them now. Even with all this money potentially in their pockets. Look at them. Like savages. They just shut the Strait of Hormuz again.